Hello again. One of the lesser known aspects of critical race theory is that those who espouse it look favourably upon setting up separate schools for black children. Here is what Richard Delgado, a founding member of the movement, says. Derek Ball, for example, urged his fellow African Americans to forswear the struggle for school integration and aim for building the best possible black schools. Other nationalists urged the establishment of all black inner city schools, sometimes just for males, on the grounds that boys of colour need strong role models and cannot easily find them in the public schools. This is, of course, segregation, which used to be really popular in America before the Second World War and even up until the 1950s. It would mean reversing all the integration which has been achieved over the last 70 years or so. The reasoning behind the idea is simple enough. Despite black children attending the same schools as white and Asian pupils, they are still not doing as well academically. Only by having entrance requirements altered in their favour by Ivy League colleges are black students able to gain places at institutions such as Harvard and Yale. The situation is, of course, much the same in Britain. There are two possible explanations behind this chronic underachievement. Either it is the problem of a real and inherent difference in intellectual ability, or racial prejudice is still operating so strongly that it causes black children to do poorly at school. I'm interested in the idea of all black schools because they do not have a brilliantly successful history. There was, of course, one in London a few years ago, and I knew some of the pupils who attended it. Without exception, those who were there bemoan in middle age the fact that they received a shockingly substandard education at the school, which was set up and run entirely by black people and employed nobody other than black teachers. The John Loughborough School in Tottenham, which lies within the London borough of Haringey, was set up by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in 1980 as a private secondary school exclusively for black children. I'll give a couple of links in the description to this video, one to a newspaper item about it and the other to a report which Haringey Council prepared when they were closing down the school. From the beginning there were problems because, of course, the first thing you want in a school is good, qualified teachers. At John Loughborough, an awful lot of the teachers were just somebody's cousin or a friend needing a job. They were certainly black and they certainly provided strong role models, which is one of the aims of this kind of establishment, but many of them were quite incapable of teaching the children mathematics or physics. This meant that the pupils there tended to get lower results in their GCSEs than at any other secondary school in Tottenham. In fact, by the time Haringey Council stepped in and closed it down, the kids at John Loughborough were getting the worst GCSE results of any school in Haringey or Hackney. And trust me, there were some pretty dreadful schools in those boroughs, and to be the worst of them all was really something of an achievement. Ofsted summed up the case neatly in 2011 when they last visited, saying that the school was failing to give its students an acceptable standard of education, and the persons responsible for leading, managing or governing the school are not demonstrating the capacity to secure the necessary improvement. Yes, that sums up the case quite neatly. Matter of fact, at John Loughborough. They also had some sharp criticism of the behaviour of the pupils at the school, who were famous locally for being unruly hooligans. The staff were quite unable to keep order. I knew the children of friends who were at John Loughborough in the 1990s, and I watched as the kids became more and more divorced from mainstream society. They didn't care about qualifications, taking GCSEs. Their only interest became black culture, black music, black politics. These young people left the school quite unfitted for life in ordinary society. Some of them hold a grudge about this, for it gradually dawned on them as they grew older that they had been cheated out of a proper education. I've heard similar stories from the United States about black schools. The problem is that running a school is a very complicated business, and it's not something which a group of well-meaning people are likely to be able to do very well unless they have some extremely specialised skills. In this country too, there are Muslim and Orthodox Jewish schools which suffer from the same problems that John Loughborough did. Very often those leaving such schools, just like the pupils of John Loughborough, find that they have spent their teenage years so far separated from ordinary life that not only do they end up at 16 with no GCSEs, but they also do not have any real idea about ordinary life in mainstream society. In short, separate schools for black children, Muslims and Orthodox Jews are a really bad idea. In every single case that I know of, safeguarding is sketchy and abuse common. In every case I know of, unqualified teachers are used. And in every case I know of, children are not prepared for life in the ordinary world which most of us inhabit.